What else changes when weight changes too fast? And that's where women started talking about Ozempic face and facial volume loss and looking older even when thinner. And whether people use medication or not, that conversation opens something way bigger. Women are not only thinking about weight anymore, women are thinking about how they want to feel, how they want to age, how they want energy, how they want confidence, how they want health without feeling like they're fighting their body every day. Hey guys, welcome back to episode 9. I'm Ijeoma, and today we're talking about something I think a lot of you guys can relate to. It's why so many women feel puffy, tired, and just off, even when they're trying and doing everything right. So if you've been trying to eat better, walk more, sleep more, and still feel bloated, swollen, tired, discouraged, or disconnected from your body, this episode explains why so many women feel physically off even when they're making effort. Okay, so lately I've been thinking about how many women are walking around every single day feeling like something in their body just feels off. And what makes it frustrating is that sometimes you can't even explain exactly what feels off. You just know something doesn't feel the way it used to. Maybe your clothes fit differently, even though your habits haven't changed much. Or maybe your stomach feels heavier by the evening. Maybe your face looks puffier some mornings. That is my story. Maybe your energy feels low, even when technically you slept. Maybe your cravings feel louder than they used to. And maybe the hardest part is that from the outside, everything still looks normal enough that people assume you're fine. But internally, you're thinking, why do I feel like I'm trying and still not getting the results I expected? Why do I feel like I'm doing things that are supposed to help and somehow my body still feels unpredictable? And honestly, I think this is one of the most common quiet frustrations women carry right now, because even when women aren't saying it out loud, so many, including me, are thinking it. You can see it in comment sections. You can hear it in conversations. You can feel it in the way women talk about their bodies now. Because even women who are disciplined, like me, women who walk, even women who cook at home, women who are making effort, are still saying, I don't understand why I feel swollen, why I feel and look pregnant. I don't understand why I feel heavier. I don't understand why I'm tired. And I definitely don't understand why my body feels different when I'm doing everything right. And what's interesting is that this conversation has gotten louder because body changes are everywhere right now in public conversation, everywhere. I mean, you open social media and there's another conversation about weight loss, another celebrity transformation, another before and after, another debate about what's natural, what's medication, what's healthy, what's too fast, what's too much. And whether people admit it or not, women absorb all of that. Even when you're not trying to compare yourself, you still see it and you have no choice but to. And lately, one of the biggest examples have been this whole Ozempic conversation, because now it's almost impossible to avoid it. Everywhere you look, there's another celebrity discussion, another interview, another headline. And don't get me wrong, I've tried it, but honestly, it was probably the worst thing I could have done for my body. I'll talk about that later. And what I think makes it emotionally complicated is that a lot of women watching these conversations are not judging. They're just quietly wondering, would I ever do that? Would that finally work for me? Like, would I feel better? Would I look better? Would I regret it? Will it have any side effects on my body that I can't explain? And now basically I'm back to square one. Because when your own body feels difficult long enough, fast answers become emotionally tempting. I've been there. And I think people like Sharon Osbourne saying publicly that she lost so much weight and then later felt like she had gone too far made a lot of women pause, because suddenly it wasn't just, look how much weight someone lost. It became, what else changes when weight changes too fast? And that's where women started talking about Ozempic face and facial volume loss and looking older even when thinner. And whether people use medication or not, that conversation opens something way bigger. Women are not only thinking about weight anymore, women are thinking about how they want to feel, how they want to age, how they want energy, how they want confidence, how they want health without feeling like they're fighting their body every day. And honestly, that's why I wanted to talk about this, because if you've been feeling physically off lately, first I need to say this clearly. You're not imagining it, and you are definitely not the only one. A lot of what women experience physically gets dismissed because it doesn't always show up dramatically enough to feel medical, but it still feels very real. And sometimes what looks small from the outside feels huge inside your own day. Because if your rings feel tight, if your stomach feels and looks swollen, if your face looks fuller and puffier, if your clothes suddenly feel uncomfortable, that affects how you move through the day emotionally. Even if nobody else notices, you notice. And sometimes that one feeling changes your mood more than you expected. Now, what's important here is understanding that real fat gain does not happen as quickly as women often fear it does. That's one of the biggest myths I wish women understood better, and it took me time to understand it as well. Because so often women wake up, we feel fine, then by evening we feel swollen, and immediately emotionally conclude, I gain weight. I gain weight, but your body can hold fluid very quickly. Your body can shift water very quickly. Your digestion can change your appearance very quickly. Your stress can change your appearance very quickly. I have lived this. And that's why two versions of your body can exist literally in one day. Morning body and evening body. Morning body and evening body can feel dramatically different because the body has processed food, it's processed salt, stress, movement, hormones, emotional fatigue, hydration, digestion, all day long. And if cortisol is elevated, that changes even more. Now, let's talk cortisol because I think women hear the word cortisol constantly now, but not always in a way that feels understandable. Cortisol is your stress hormone. You need it. But the problem is, women often hear stress and think, well, everybody's stressed. And yes, everybody is stressed, but the body still responds biologically. When cortisol stays elevated, your body changes how it holds water. It changes digestion. It changes cravings. It changes sleep quality. It changes how quickly your stomach empties. It changes how inflamed your body can feel. And what's crazy is that when women are so used to functioning under stress, they don't even realize how much their body's adapting around it. You can be productive and still physiologically stressed. You can be getting things done and still be physiologically inflamed. You can be disciplined and still physiologically depleted. That's why effort alone sometimes doesn't immediately create relief, because if the nervous system stays elevated, the body often stays guarded. And honestly, I think motherhood makes this harder because women can look calm externally while internally carrying constant mental tabs. What needs to be done? What someone forgot? What appointment is tomorrow? Who needs what? And your nervous system rarely gets full closure. That matters more than people think because your body doesn't separate emotional load from physical response as clearly as we imagine. Stress still becomes chemistry, and chemistry still affects appearance. And sometimes women blame themselves for what is actually physiology. So let me tell you a story of how I signed up for a personal trainer for the first time ever in my entire life. This was February of this year, so 2 months ago. And the reason why I did this is because I remember this day so clearly. I literally just finished shooting an episode for Not Broken, and I went home and I started crying because I think I felt the most inflamed and puffy that I've ever felt that day. And I just kept thinking to myself, what am I doing wrong? And I said, you know what? Who would be the best person to talk to when it comes to gaining muscle and losing fat? A bodybuilder. And I remember watching one of my favorite shows, Married to Medicine, and I remember seeing a woman on there. Her name is Dr. Contessa, and she had this amazing body transformation. And I like to follow women who've had 3 or more kids and who are very fit because, hey, if you had 3 or more and you're fit, maybe you're doing something right. So I actually found out who her personal trainer was, got in contact with him, and I booked his session and I started his plan. And I can remember thinking to myself, I finally have an answer. Maybe I've done everything that I thought was right. I'm eating clean, I'm walking, I'm being active, I'm taking my supplements. Granted, I wasn't getting good sleep and still not getting good sleep because I have a 7-month-old now and he wakes up every night for his bottle. But I was just convinced that having a professional guide me was going to give me clear answers as to why I was having so much trouble losing fat, why I just looked puffier and puffier every single day. And I was eating very healthy. So I book with him and I start his plan. He puts me on a very rigorous meal plan, lots of supplements, and of course, workouts. Now, here's the thing. These workouts had to be done early in the morning on a fasted stomach for 45 minutes. And this was after I take my supplements. So basically, I had to wake up, swallow all these pills, and jump on a treadmill or elliptical for 45 minutes. And I just remember thinking to myself, I have never done this in my life. Usually I like to eat before I work out. I want to have just a little bit of energy. And I'm thinking maybe this is going to stress out my body because, again, I'm not sleeping right. And I already know that my cortisol is high. I'm pretty sure this is going to raise it even higher. But I just let all my thoughts go and I trusted him with the process, which is what he told me to do. So I did that. Guess what, guys? For 3 solid weeks. And those 3 solid weeks, I did not lose 1 single pound. As a matter of fact, I actually think I looked a little bit worse than when I started. And he said a comment in our text thread here, and I have it. And he said, your cortisol is all over the place. It causes water retention. Google it. And I kept thinking, I know that. And I said to myself, this is what I thought was going to happen before I signed up with you, but I wanted to trust you with the process. And this just goes to show, which I want a lot of people to do more, is trust your body, trust your instincts. You know your body more than anyone. And yes, I did tell him, that I had 6 kids, that I've had a history of under eating and over exercising. And I was also in hormone therapy. I was prescribed things like metformin and MP thyroid and things like that. So are you sure that going on a calorie deficit, a severe calorie deficit, and exercising early in the morning on a fasted stomach is going to be best for my cortisol levels. And he said, trust the process. And I was right. I didn't lose any fat. And I looked a lot more inflamed and a lot more I just looked really bad. So I stopped, guys, for the first time in my life. So I'm definitely not a quitter. And that's something that I think a lot of people really admire about me, is that when I do something, I do it and I do it well. So the fact that I actually ended up canceling with this personal trainer, it was a big blow for me mentally and emotionally. And I said, I can't believe I quit. I'd never quit anything in my life, but I had to trust my instincts, and I have a goal because honestly, by the way, I'm going to South Africa for a 40th birthday trip for my best friend. And I wanted to give myself a good solid 3 months to see what I can do with my body. And signing up with this personal trainer was one of the things that I thought would get me there, but it almost kind of took me back. So I stopped and I just went back to basics, eating protein, prioritizing protein, and doing my walks when my body felt safe enough to do it. I did not walk if I felt like I was just depleted for the day. I make sure I took my supplements and I try to get as good sleep as I can. Still not getting good sleep, but hey, that's just the season I'm in. And guess what? I actually am looking better, and it's actually been kind of effortless. Once I signed off with the personal trainer, I just stopped going to the gym. And again, I walk when I feel like it and when my body feels like it's okay. And I eat when I'm hungry. I stop when I'm full, and I prioritize protein. I also eat carbs too. And guys, I'm feeling a lot better in my body. I actually think I look better, and I've actually lost, I think, about 1.5 pounds. So it's not a lot, it's definitely not, nowhere near my 120-pound weight goal, but it is a step in the right direction. And that's what I want to encourage you guys. You have to trust your instincts when it comes to your body. And when your body is sending you messages, lean in and learn what it's saying. So this is a clear example of when my body just did not match my effort. I'm waking up every single morning for 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, working out on an empty, fasted stomach, and I see no change in my body. So what that means is that honestly, when you're trying too hard, sometimes your body's just telling you the message that you need to try less, because sometimes less is more. Now, another thing I think women don't really realize enough is how much digestion affects how you look, because sometimes what women call fat is actually digestion. Slow digestion changes shape, constipation changes shape, inflammation changes shape, and if waste is sitting longer in the digestive system, you literally feel heavier. I've lived this, my story. But women often normalize it because it's become common. But common doesn't mean optimal. If digestion is slow, estrogen clearance can also be affected. That matters because hormones and digestion are connected more than people realize too. And then suddenly you're blaming food when the full picture is much bigger. Another layer here is magnesium. I love this one. Magnesium is one of those nutrients women hear about often, but not always in practical everyday terms. Magnesium helps the nervous system stay calm. It helps muscles relax. It helps sleep quality. It helps bowel movement rhythm. It helps blood sugar stability. So when magnesium runs low, women often notice tension, poorer sleep, more cravings, slower digestion. And all of those things influence how the body feels day to day. That's why the body often isn't giving random signals. It's usually responding to something. And sometimes the signal is simply asking for support. That's why the body often isn't giving random signals. It's usually responding to something. And sometimes the signal is simply asking for support. So the question is, have you figured out what your body is asking for? Well, that's all I have for you today. And until we meet again, I'll see you guys at the next one. Bye now.